Hello friends, you know the most popular UI development framework? Yes, it's React. And the top most reason for its popularity is it has the maximum number of jobs for UI development in market. And to get the jobs, we should have to have the interview cracking skills, right? So this is like a mini course if you are planning to give interviews right now or in future. If you are experienced in React, then this mini course is like a revision for you because sometimes we are working on something but answering the questions in interviews is slightly a different thing, right? That's why revision is very important. Even if you are new to React, even then you can understand all these questions because these questions are structured in a step by step manner. Okay, for example, in first chapter we will check out 10 very basic and fundamental React questions in a sequential manner which every React developer must know. These basic questions are like the foundation of React. Then in the second chapter, we will check out the questions about the files and the folders and main methods in React, which are provided by default, okay, when you create the React project first time for your project, okay. And then in third chapter, we will see the questions on JSX in React because as a developer, you have to write JSX code only, right? Here, if you are noticing, I have also marked some questions as very important because these questions are frequently asked in React. So let's start. Hey, my name is Happy and I help candidates in cracking interviews because whether you have all the knowledge, degrees, certification, but if you are missing on interview skills, then it's a bit difficult to get the best job and career growth, right? What is the role of React in software development? This is the first question, and here you will know how React with other technologies is used for creating one big application. For example, you are a user and you open e-commerce website in your laptop, okay? When you will open the website, then first the request will hit the UI server. This UI server is also called client or front-end server also, okay? This front-end server will have all the static HTML content in itself, like name of the website and other static content. But for dynamic content like the list of orders, this UI server will send the request to some API server, okay? This API server is also called middleware sometimes, and it is only responsible for business logic and getting and posting the data only. There will not be any UI elements in like HTML, CSS or JavaScript in this API server. Now, whether you want to get, post or update the data, your UI server will call the API server. And this API server will then get, insert or update the data inside the database server. Both these API server and database server are also called backend sometimes, okay. In case of GET, the database will respond back some data to the API and then API will do some logic in it inside it like sorting or filtering and then finally send the data to the client which will display the data to the browser or you can say the user. This is the basic flow. Now here for database we use SQL as language for running scripts and SQL Server or Oracle as the DBMS we will use. There are other DBMS also, but these are the most popular one. Similarly, for backend, we use one of like C#, Java or PHP as languages, and the frameworks are .NET, Spring or Laravel. Okay, any one of them. And these are other language. There are other languages and frameworks also available. Now the question is why we need DBMS and frameworks? Because DBMS simplifies the complex database operations and server-side frameworks simplifies the complex server-side programming, right? Similarly, for front-end, we need only CSS, HTML and JavaScript as languages. But to simplify the complex UI building, we use React, which is a JavaScript library, or we can also use Angular, which is a UI framework. We will later see the differences between them, okay. Now you know React is used to simplify the creation of complex UI applications, right? React is what? We already know the answer of this question. React is an open source JavaScript library. React is used for what? React is used for building user interfaces. Why we need React although we already have HTML, CSS and JavaScript? This is the most important point. We need React because React simplifies the creation of single page application by using reusable components. That's the answer of this question. What is single page application? Example first, here you can see a web page structure. Here we have many components. Now, if any component is updated or a new component is added, the page will never reload or refreshed, okay? And only the same page is updated every time. That is what is called single page application. Now, if I will go to the browser to show you the example. For example, if here you can see the YouTube in the browser, okay? And here you can see whatever I am doing on this page, the whole page is never loaded, okay? Because YouTube is a single page application, okay? And above you can see it never refresh. Only the content, the component inside the YouTube are loading, but not the whole page. So that is the single page application. Now, if I open some other application which is not a single page and have multiple pages, so here when I am pressing, see this website here, when I am pressing menu items, then you can see this reload icon at the top left corner is disappearing and appearing for a while, like it's loading and unloading. So that is because it is loading another page, okay? With every call it is loading different page. So that is the reason it is a multi-page application, okay? So now let's conclude some points about single page application back in the slides. So a single page application is a web application that have only one single web page, okay? When user do some action on the website, then in response, content will dynamically updated without refreshing or loading the new page. So that is the single page application, and that is the answer of this question. What are the advantages of React? It's a very important question, and here I will share the 5 most important advantages of React one by one. First one, you already know, in React it is very simple to build single page application, and that is by using components. I will also share how we will achieve it, okay? In other words, React follows component-based architectures, which allows developer to create reusable UI components that can be used throughout the application, okay? So that will make your development faster and more efficient. Second advantage is React is cross-platform and open source, which means it's free to use. And also like React can be used for building applications in various platforms, okay, including web, mobile, or desktop. It also works well with other frameworks and libraries, making it easy to integrate into existing projects. Then third advantage is React is lightweight and therefore it is very fast. Why? Because it uses the concept virtual DOM. Virtual DOM I will explain in upcoming questions, but yes, it is very fast because of that. Fourth benefit is React is supported by large community and ecosystem, which means for any help, there are many forums where you can discuss your React coding problems with other members. Also, since React is the most popular UI development technology, therefore it has the maximum number of jobs in the market. You do not have to say this to the interviewer, but yes, this is one of the very important reason why React is, this is one of the advantage of the React, right? And the last but not the least advantage is testing in UI in React is very easy. So that is the another advantage of React. These are some of the most important advantage which you can share with anyone. What are some disadvantages of React? Everything has some pros and cons, and same is the case with React. Let's see the example with the React where it's not a good choice for UI development, okay? Suppose you have an application where you have many small replaceable complex components like this. In this case, React is a good choice for you to manage these components, okay? Because React will make the development process very simple as compare if you will directly use the HTML, CSS and JavaScript, because then this complex component application will be very difficult to create, okay? But if you have a very simple static website like this, where there are fixed number of static content and some fixed menu items are here and very less dynamic content, okay? For this kind of simple website, go with simple and plain HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Because then if you will choose React for this small application, then learning the React and then the flow, the settings in React, all will be like a overhead for you, okay? And creating applications in React also needs planning, which takes time, okay? Right? So the short answer is React is not a good choice for very small applications. What is the difference between React and Angular? There is a lot of competition between these two technologies, so let's see the differences between them. Before differences, let's first see the similarity between them. React and Angular both are used to create single page UI web applications, okay, using components, okay. In Angular also we have components. Now the first fundamental difference between them is React is a JavaScript library, whereas Angular is a complete UI development framework. When we say framework, it means it provides many plugins and inbuilt support for many things, okay. Second difference is React uses a virtual DOM which makes it faster. I will explain the virtual DOM in upcoming question. But Angular uses only the real DOM, which is slightly difficult to render and therefore not as faster as virtual DOM. So here React is the clear winner because it is faster in that sense, okay. Third difference is React is smaller in size and lightweight, and therefore again it is faster sometimes. Whereas Angular is bigger because it is a complete framework, therefore also it is not lightweight. So again here React is again the winner, okay. Now when I say faster, do not think if Angular page can load in 5 seconds, then React can load the same page in 1 second. Faster in sense, React can load a page in 1 second, then Angular can load the same page in 1.1, 1.2 2 second, okay. There is not a big difference between the speed. Then the next difference is React depends on external libraries for complex features. So developer has to write many lines of code for complex functionalities and integrations in React. But since Angular is a complete framework, therefore it provides built-in support or features like routing, forms, validation and HTTP request. Therefore developer has to write less line of codes, and therefore Angular is the clear winner here. So in short, for a very complex UI application which is interacting with multiple APIs, Angular is slightly a better choice. Fifth and last difference is React is simple to learn and more popular than Angular, and therefore it has more jobs and more support from online community, okay. Whereas Angular is slightly difficult to learn as because it has TypeScript, OOPS concepts and many more things, okay. So basically if you are already know classes, objects, inheritance, dependency injections, these server side programming concepts, then only Angular will be easy for you. Otherwise it is slightly difficult to learn as comparison to React, okay. So for simple learning, React is the winner here. Alright, I think now you know the differences between them, and you also know which one should you choose in which situations, right? What is DOM? Let's try to understand with the help of an example. Suppose you are a user and you open the browser and open one website, and here is the static HTML code of that website, okay. That is the static page because it contains a static HTML, right? Now if you want to update some element here, or you want to add some new element in this static HTML, how can you do that? So basically how you can change this static page to a dynamic page. Here comes the role of DOM for browsers. Remember, DOM is a general concept with all the browsers. It is not specifically related with the React. Now with the help of DOM, the same HTML will be converted to a tree representation like this. Here you can see HTML tag is the root element, then HTML has head and body as the child element, and other same HTML elements down the code, right? So basically this is the tree-like representation of the same HTML code, and this we call DOM, or sometimes we also call this DOM tree. The question is why we need this DOM tree. We need this because now this DOM tree will enable the user to update or add new elements in this structure here. For example, if user will add one more paragraph inside the body element, then here with the help of that JavaScript, one more node will be created and a new paragraph element will be added. And finally, this DOM tree will be back converted to the HTML and displayed to the user. So DOM is like an interface to make your websites dynamic with the help of JavaScript. The proper definition is the DOM, which stands for Document Object Model, represents the web page as a tree-like structure which allows JavaScript to dynamically access and manipulate the content and structure of a web page. I hope now you can relate the definition with the explanation I have given here, right? Now in normal application without React, whenever you are doing some changes in the HTML in the browser as a user, maybe you are adding some elements or manipulating some elements, then actually you are directly manipulating the real DOM tree. This is the story about the DOM and the real DOM. Okay. What is the difference between DOM and virtual DOM? In previous question, I have explained DOM, right? And how we update DOM whenever we do any changes in the web application as a user in the browser. Now the question is, what is the difference between DOM and virtual DOM? Why we need virtual DOM in React at all? We already know DOM is a general concept for browsers, but virtual DOM is specific to React only. Basically, there is a problem with DOM. That's why we need virtual DOM to solve that problem. The problem is, even if a user do a very small change in a web page in a web application, even then the whole layout will be re-rendered. So that is the problem, whole layout. Okay, for example, you are just changing one element, title text here in the title tag element in the HTML. Even then the browser will recalculate and render the whole layout of the entire page, which will basically then refresh the entire DOM, and which is very time consuming. That time consumption will increase the load time of the web page, and that is the problem. Okay, so that's why React bring the concept of a virtual DOM here. Now if you will use React for your UI application, then when user will hit the your React UI application, then React libraries in background will create the exact copy of this real DOM tree and put it in the front of the user like this. From outside it looks user is interacting with the real DOM, but actually user is interacting with the virtual DOM, which is the exact copy of the real DOM. Okay, now if user is doing any changes in UI, then those changes are happening in virtual DOM only, not directly in the real DOM. And then in the background, React algorithms in the React libraries will keep comparing the changes between virtual DOM and real DOM. And whatever changes user has done in the virtual DOM, the same will be reflected in the real DOM by the React libraries. Okay, this is the process in React, but the question is how the virtual DOM is faster. Earlier we were directly updating the real DOM, which is a single step process without React, right? Now first virtual DOM and then real DOM. It seems like a two-step process. Then how can it say it's a faster process? So it is faster because suppose you do any change here, suppose you update the title text in the virtual DOM, then only and only title tag is rendered, not the whole virtual DOM. Okay, and similarly React algorithm will only update the specific tag in the real DOM also, without rendering the whole layout and web page. Okay, so if you remember, while updating the real DOM directly, the whole layout of the page will be rendered with every change, with every small change. But now only the specific element will be updated and the whole layout will not be rendered. This less rendering makes your web page very fast to load. That's how using virtual DOM will make your UI faster, because it avoids refreshing the whole layout. You can also say that React uses a virtual DOM to efficiently update the UI without re-render the entire page, which helps in improving the performance and make the application more responsive. Now you know the differences between the DOM and virtual DOM, right? There is one more point here. There can be more than one virtual DOM can be created by React. Okay, that totally depends on the React library dynamic algorithms. Okay, so more than one virtual DOM can be created. Okay, it's possible, but as a developer you need not to bother about those background details, because that is the job of React only. Okay, React will handle that. And that's it. That's the answer of this question. What are React components? We already know React follow component-based architecture, right? In the upcoming question, I will explain components and type of components in detail. But before that, here in this question, I will give you a high-level idea of the components. So basically, if you see this web page, then you can see here we have many sections, or you can also say building blocks of this web page. So maybe this is a header, this is body, menu items, and then footer, right? All these are building blocks of this web page. Now in React application, we will create separate components for separate sections, and these components can be reused anywhere in the website. So the simple definition of the component is, in React, a component is a reusable building block for creating user interfaces. That's it. How to set up React first project. This is not an interview question, but if you are new to React, then you can follow these steps to set up your React development environment. Okay, if you are experienced in React, then you can skip this question, or you can watch to just revise the installation process. It will not take much time. These are the 5 steps to install React. I will show you how these steps work. Okay, first step is install Node.js from this link. Okay, this is the first step. Second step is install code editor for writing the code. Here is the VS Code link, but you can also use any other code editor for this. So it depends on you, but this is the most popular one. Next step is open the VS Code and then go to terminal, then new terminal, and then run this command npx create react app, and then name of the project, like whatever you want to keep the name, the project name. Okay, so my app is the name of your project here. You can put it anything, and then when you will press enter, it will take around 5 to 6 minutes to create the first project for you. Then as a next step, your project folder is created. So now again in the VS Code, go to the file and open the folder. Go to just created. You have to open the folder which you just created. Okay, and then open it. Finally, here will be your first React project, my app. Okay, now to run this project, how we will run this project? Open the terminal with Ctrl+Tilde key and run this command npm start. If all is well, then your browser will automatically loaded like this, and this means your first application is ready to work on. And now you can change the web page as per your requirement. Alright, congratulations, we have completed the first chapter of this course, which had the basic fundamental questions. Now in this chapter we will cover questions about the files and folders which are available by default in the React project. When you will create your project first time, these files are like the starting point of your application. We will have here simple questions about some folders like node modules, public and source, and also the questions on files like index.html, App.js and index.js, what they do and why we need them. So let's start with the first question of this chapter. What is npm? What is the role of node modules folder? Let's see the code in the VS Code. Alright, so in the last question we set up our first React project, and here are the default folders and files available. So if you remember, we installed npm for developing React applications, right? Why we install npm for working in React project? The answer is npm will create this node modules folder for our project, which will contain all the libraries and dependencies needed for UI development, and we should never touch this folder. Now back to the slide. Same screenshot I put here so that later the slide can be used for quick revision. What is npm? Why we install npm? The answer is npm is used to manage the dependencies for your React project, including the React library itself, which are stored in the node modules folder. If you will not install the npm, then you have to download all the React libraries yourself, and in that case you might miss some libraries, and which will impact your development time and your project also, right? Therefore npm will install all the libraries at once. And if you see the project structure here inside the node modules folder, npm store all the libraries. For example, this Babel library is used to transpile modern JavaScript code into a version that is compatible with older browsers and environments. Similarly, all the libraries and dependencies have some roles in developing React applications. As a developer, we should never touch, delete or modify these libraries. Now, what is node modules folder? As I already said, node modules folder contains all the dependencies of the project, including the React libraries. That's the answer of this question. What is the role of public folder in React? Short question it is. Again, if we see the default structure, after node modules folder, we have this public folder created by React project, right? Basically, this folder contain all the static content like favicon, index.html file, all the images. Okay, so all the static content. The proper definition is public folder contains static assets that are served directly to the user browser, such as images, fonts, and the index.html file. Here you will not put any dynamic things like component and other things which will change dynamically. Only things which are static and not supposed to change will be placed here. This is the simple answer of this question. What is the role of src folder in React? Next folder after node modules folder and public folder is src folder, and yes, src means source, and all the source code developed by developer will be placed here. This is the most important folder from a developer point of view. The answer is, in React, src folder is used to store all the source code of the application, which is then responsible for the dynamic changes in your web application. And in upcoming questions, we will cover separate question on these index.js, app.js files, which are again very important files for React app development. What is the role of index.html page in React? Let's see the code in Visual VS Code for index.html. Here is the index.html file in React, right? When we say React is used to create single page application, then this index.html is that single page, okay? Meaning all the components are going to be placed dynamically inside this single page only, this index.html only. Whenever any user will open the browser and open the React website, then this is the first page which is going to be loaded, okay? Or you can say this is the entry point for the React application. So basically when the application will run, only this div with id root will be replaced by the components, okay? Rest of the things like the title or anything you will put here will always remain same as it is in the browser. Now let's see the definition in the slide. And the answer is, index.html file in React project is the entry point of the application. Now in upcoming questions, I will explain how at runtime this div with root id will be replaced by the components which you will create in your application, okay? What is the role of app.js file in React? Now here is our first component file of the React application inside the source folder. App.js is the root level component in a React application, and it is responsible for rendering all the other components. So that is the simple answer. Now suppose this is your web page and inside this you have multiple components like this. Then maybe you have 1, 2 or 100 components, but you will always have a root component inside which all these child components will be placed like this. And this app component is the default root component in React. We also say it is like main or top component or root component. You can name it anything. So the definition is, app.js is the top or the main root level component in a React application, and it is responsible for rendering all the other child components. Now here inside we just created the app component, and now the question is how to register this app component in the single page in the index.html. How we will pass this component to our single page, right? That is the question, and that I will explain in the upcoming question. What is the role of function and return inside app.js? Here if you see the app.js code, then here you will find this function. Now function is nothing, the definition is, in React a function is a JavaScript function which returns a React element, okay? For example, we have one React element here, a div inside this return statement. We can have multiple React elements also here, or you can say React objects. So React objects and React elements are same thing. So basically function is like the component body placeholder, okay? And return, make sure to return the element created here inside the body to the single page application, to the index.html. So that is how function and function and return work together, okay, to send the component to the index.html file. Can we have a function without return inside app.js? The answer is yes. Sometimes we do not want to return any React element from the function, okay? Instead, we want to log something in console like this, or we want to fire some event. In those cases, we can write functions without return statement, and that is possible. What is the role of export default inside the app.js file? Now here you can see the export.default statement in the code here. And why we use it? What is the role of this? Okay, the answer is, it is used to make this app component available for import using import statement in other files. Okay, so basically as we were talking about that, okay, our component is here, but we have to send our component to other files, to the index.html files or index.js files. So how we will make this component available? By writing this line, export default line, okay, export default app. So now let me go to the VS Code, And you can see this is the line here. And if I will show you the browser, so see, our application is running fine. Now if I will go back to the VS Code, and if I will remove this line from here, export, and then this app component will not be available for import in other files. Okay, so therefore it will throw the error. And if I will go to the browser again and see the compile time, this compile time error here, export default was not found in the app. Okay, so that is the role of the export default. It will make available the app component for the import to the other files. And that is the answer of this question. What is the role of index.js file, ReactDOM and render method in React? So basically here is the question. Here is this file index.js, which is responsible for passing the component from the app.js to the index.html file. So it is like a integration file. Okay, so here you can see the default code of the index.js file. I have removed some unnecessary comments and code only. Okay, so that it can be simple. Now here we have this ReactDOM library, which is imported from this ReactDOM/client library of node modules folder. Okay, what is this ReactDOM? ReactDOM is a JavaScript library which convert your components to the actual browser DOM. So basically, whatever syntax you are writing in the app.js file, that will be converted to the JavaScript which is understandable by your browser. Okay, so you can also say that it's this ReactDOM is like a bridge between React and the browser's DOM. Okay, so basically when you create a React application, you typically write your components code inside the app.js file using React syntax, right? The JSX syntax. And then you will put the root components reference here like this. Here we have placed inside this app component. And then this root.render will render the root component and the child components of it, and if there are any child components. Now with this ReactDOM.create root method will recreate the root top level element of the HTML document. Okay, so basically what we are doing here, in short, we are creating the root element again. If you remember, we have only one element inside the body tag with the ID root in the index.html, right? This is the root element. So what we are doing in the app.js file, we are trying to replace index.js file. What we are trying to do, we are trying to replace this root element with the new root element, which will be having all the components. Okay, so when the application will run, this root div will be replaced by the root element we are creating inside the app.js file. Okay, so first we will take, if you will see inside the index.js file, here first we are taking the reference of the root element by this ReactDOM.create root method, and then we will use this render method to set all the root level components and their child components. You can also set multiple root components, okay, like header, footer and others here. That's it. So at last, the definition of the index.js file is: index.js file is the JavaScript file which renders all the components and replace the root element of the index.html file with the newly rendered and created root element. So that is the answer. I think you can relate it with the explanation I have given. And here this react.strict mode element is a special wrapper that helps in debugging and identifying the potential issues in your code. Okay, but that is optional and we will check it later. That is not so important. So this is the answer of this question. How React app load and display the components in browser. So this is like the summary of all the things which we have already discussed. So first, user hit the browser and request is sent to the index.html page. Then with the help of the React libraries, index.js JavaScript file is loaded in the browser. So if I will go to the VS Code, okay, and now as the application is already running, go to the browser. Okay, now if you right click and inspect here and expand this head and scroll down, here you will find the bundle.js file, okay, which is loaded by the React library. Now if you will right click and open this link in the new tab like this, and here you will search the index.js file, then see index.js file is automatically loaded with the help of the node modules folder. Okay, Now if we go back to the slide, and we already know that index.html has loaded the index.js file, right? We already know this. And index.js file will render the app component inside this index.html file, right? And then the result will be set in the root element, which will then be replaced by the root element of the index.html file. So this is like the whole summary of the whole process, which I already discussed, which I already explained you in the previous question. So index.html, then index.js, which will internally call the app.js and will send the response back to the index.html. That is the summary. Great, and congrats for completing the last chapter. If you are here, means you are serious about the interviews, and we definitely get those things about which we are serious, right? Here is now the third chapter of this mini course, and the questions will be from JSX. JSX is a very important thing because because for a React developer you have to write the code in JSX, right? So here is the list of all the questions in JSX in a sequential manner. We have questions on JSX advantages, working of React, fragments, conditional rendering. All basic concepts of JSX are covered. Okay, so let's start with the first question. What is JSX? Alright, if you see this code of a simple app component here, then this look like HTML, but actually it is JSX. When you will run this code, then internally this JSX code will be converted like this in JavaScript form, where multiple React elements are created using the Babel library. Okay, so that transformation is happening with the by Babel library only. Now you can see how difficult it is to write this react.create element code, right? As comparison to writing this simple JSX code, right? So JSX code is simpler to read and simple to write also. This is the simple reason of the existence of JSX. So the definition is JSX, which stands for JavaScript XML, is a syntax extension used by React to write HTML-like code. What are the advantages of JSX? This is a very important question. Why we do not directly use the JavaScript? Why we need one extra language JSX? So let's see the main advantages one by one. First advantage you already know. JSX improve code readability and writability, which I already explained in the previous question, right? Second advantage is JSX is better for error checking in advance, or you can say it provides type safety. Let me show you the same in the VS Code. What does it actually mean? See, the simple JSX code is here, which will simply print hello happy. Okay, now if I change this h1 tag, then if you see, it is showing me the error, this underline red line in advance, right? So this is type safety or advanced error checking provided by JSX, which is really a good feature, because while coding we can fix this error on the spot, right? But if I will comment this JSX code and then I will remove the comment from this direct JavaScript React code, and if you see the browser, if I will go to the browser and it is showing me the same output, hello happy. Okay, now if I will come back in the code, and if I will replace this h1 with something else which is basically incorrect, then here now no red line, okay, no error is showing. Obviously it will give some problem in future, and then it will be very difficult for developer to track these small changes, right? That's why JSX is better, because it checks the error in advance and it provides type safety. Now let's go back to the slide. Then the next advantage about JSX is it supports JavaScript expressions. Okay, so if you see the code here, then the things we have put inside the curly braces are the JavaScript expressions, and JSX supports them and allows them inside its own syntax. Okay, so basically JSX has taken all the good things from the JavaScript also. Other advantages of JSX are improved performance, and then another one is code reusability. Okay, so basically everything has been done to keep this JSX simple and easy to understand. Now you know the main advantages of JSX, right? Can browser read a JSX file? What is Babel? So the question is, if we have a JSX code like this, then will browser understand it directly? The answer is no. Browser will not understand the JSX direct code directly. It only understands JavaScript, HTML and CSS. Now the question is, how this code will be converted to JavaScript then? So the process is, first this JSX code will be converted to the valid JavaScript code like this with the help of the Babel library, and then this JavaScript will be understood by the browser. Okay, so this is the process. So the next part of the question is, what is Babel? So if you remember, we have this node modules folder installed by npm in our project. Okay, and inside this we have this Babel library. Okay, what Babel does? Babel in React is used to transpile JSX syntax into a regular JavaScript which browser can easily understand. So that is the role of the Babel. Okay, it transpile that JSX syntax, and this is the answer of this question. What is Transpiler? Many have some confusion about this word transpiler. Okay, so whenever we change the code from one language, for example JSX, to another language, for example JavaScript, then this transformation process we called transpile the code. Okay, and the tool which is used to transpile the code is called transpiler. Okay, for example Babel is a transpiler. Okay, because it converts JSX to JavaScript. So the definition of transpiler is, a transpiler is a tool that converts the source code from one programming language to another programming language. That's it. Is it possible to use JSX without React? The answer is yes, it is possible to use JSX without React, but you have to create your own transpiler like Babel then. Okay, so however, this is not recommended since JSX is tightly integrated with React and relies on many React specific features. Okay, so basically JSX is developed by Facebook for React only. Yes, that you can create a separate transpiler, but that is not recommended. Okay. What is the role of fragment in React? As always, let's see the code example first. Suppose you have this app component. Here you have two separate elements. They are not under any common root element. Okay, therefore you can see it is giving an error here by this red underline. Okay, it is not accepted at all in React in JSX. Okay, because in JSX there must be a root or parent element inside which you can place the child elements. Okay, so now one solution to this is to put one extra div as the root element like this. Now you will not get any error and it will work completely fine. But this is not a recommended solution, because might be the layout of the page will be impacted by this extra div. Okay, that's the problem with this. So for the proper solution is to put the fragment tags like this over the child elements. This fragment tag will not create any extra div or any extra tag in the browser. While rendering in browser, this fragment tag will be automatically disappeared. Okay, it's just a placeholder, nothing else it will do. And also it is not showing the error also. So your problem is resolved, right? So this is fragments. So there is one more shortcut way of putting the fragment tag, and that is like this. So mostly developer use this tags because this is shorter, right? It is very simple, but both of them are called the fragments only. They do the same thing. So the proper definition is, in React, a fragment is a way of group a list of children without adding extra nodes to the DOM. So this is the answer of this question. How do you iterate over a list in JSX? What is map method? Alright, let's see the use case first. Suppose you have this array inside the app component. Okay, now your task is to loop through this array and then return a new array where every number is modified and multiplied by 2 like this. This should be the output you need. Okay, this is the requirement. So a new array, here you can see a new array with every element multiplied by 2 in old array. Okay, from old array. Now one traditional way to do this is to declare a new array and then use the for loop to iterate each element of old array and multiply the items by 2, and then add the items in the new declared array and finally return the whole new array. Okay, this is the traditional approach, but that is a long way and you have to write multiple lines of code to achieve that. Therefore, JavaScript has this map method which does the same thing in single line of code like this. So remember, it's a JavaScript function which can also be used in JSX and React. Okay, now how this map method will work? Listen carefully. Here we will call the map method of the numbers list first. Here inside the map method, this number, this is not numbers, this is just a number. Okay, number is the parameter which is accepting one by one all the array elements. Okay, so first number parameter will be 1, then 2, then 3, and so on. And then this arrow function will help in manipulating each item in the number list. Like here we are passing each number as a parameter, and then we are multiplying the same number with 2, and then these number multiplied by 2 will be added automatically in a new array which will be returned by this function. So all these things is happening in just one line, and that is the magic. Okay, now if you know arrow function, callback function, then it is very easy for you. Otherwise I will also try to explain them in later questions. Okay, so the short answer is map methods allows you to iterate over an array and modify its elements using the callback function. That's it. What are props in JSX? Let's quickly see the example first. Suppose you have this parent component app in your application. Inside this, you are placing one child component, but in child component you want to pass some parameters also. Okay. Now in order to receive these parameters in child component, we will use props here like this. And then inside we will extract the properties from this props like this. So props.name and props.purpose. And finally this is the output. So what are props? Props are a way to pass data from a parent component to a child component. See in the example here, we are passing the data from the parent to the child with the help of this props. Okay. What is a spread operator? We already know that the way to pass properties from parent component to child component is through the props way. Okay, so but in real applications we do not have just 2 parameters like this. We may have 5, 10, 15 parameters, or maybe we are getting the key value pairs from some data source like API or somewhere else, and then writing them like this is not feasible. It will be a very long code, right? So at that time we will create props object with all the properties like this outside the return statement like this. Okay, and then you can put any name of this object. I put props here. Okay, and then use the spread operator to pass them down to the child component like this. You can see these 3 dots are called spread operator. Okay, they are doing nothing, but they are just spreading, or you can say expanding this props or any object here only. This is just a shortcut way of writing, but internally it is the same. The way of accessing this spread operator in child component will remain same as of a normal props way. Okay, so you can see this. So finally the definition is the spread operator is used to expand or spread an array or object. That's it. What are the types of conditional rendering in JSX? We already know in every programming language we have conditions like if else, right? Similarly in React also we have conditions. We have 4 types of conditional rendering techniques in JSX. First one is the simplest one, and that is the if else condition, and here is the code example. Simple, it says if 2 is greater than 1, which it is always, then return ABC, else return XYZ. The output you know, right? Another way of doing the same thing is ternary operator. Here the same can be done with single line of code like this. This question mark and colon together are called ternary operators. Here if 2 is greater than 1, it's true, then return ABC. Otherwise the expression after the colon will be executed. In this case, if the condition is true, then only the first statement will run and the second statement after colon will never get executed. Okay. Now you might think, great, now I will always use ternary operator and will never use if else in future. But where there are multiple statements or expressions, then the ternary operator is very difficult to write or read. So if else is the better way to there. So it depends basically on case to case basis which one is good for you. Next way of conditional rendering is AND operator. Here is the code and it is almost similar to ternary operator, but the difference is in AND operator it will never evaluate false condition. It will always evaluate just the true condition. In this case, if the statement is true, it will return this statement just after the AND operator. But if it is false, then there is no second option, right? No second option written here. it is always going to then return the null in that case. Got it? So this is even shorter than ternary operator, but case to case basis you have to use, right? The last conditional rendering technique is switch statement. This is a traditional way where we have multiple statements like this, and if here if value equal to 2, return this, 1, return this. If something else, you can add more case statement here as per the requirement, and if none of the case statement is true, then the default will be run, this last one. Okay, so these are all the types of the conditional rendering available in JSX. I hope you have enjoyed this course, and I am also planning the next video of this React interview series where I will cover more advanced interview questions. Okay, let me know your views in the comment section if you want that video as soon as possible. At the end, I would like to say all the best to you for your career, and if you are preparing for interviews, then again all the best from my side. Okay, keep giving interviews and never give up.